4 turbochargers, so the end result produced 1,000 brake horsepower. Now that produces a massive amount of heat, and that's why it's fitted with 10 radiators. This then is the ultimate in internal combustion. Sadly, however, when they put it into the car and tried it out, they found that they were 30 kilometers an hour short of the 400 kilometer an hour target that they'd set for themselves. And the problem is that for each extra 1 kilometer an hour you need another 8 horsepower. So for another 30 kilometers an hour you need another 240 horsepower. And where are you going to get that from? Welding another Audi V8 into the mix, adding another 16 turbos in there? It just wasn't possible. Instead, they started to play with the car's aerodynamics, altering the angle of attack slightly as the speed builds. To reach 252 miles an hour, the nose sits right down and the rear spoiler is folded away altogether. This car then is like a falcon, 1 second hunkered down and slippery for maximum attack, the next configured for high downforce agility. Even the door mirrors have been designed specifically to give downforce, to keep the front wheels on the ground. It doesn't really feel like any other car I've ever driven this. I mean, for example, when you come out of a slow corner, you can feel the wheel tugging like there's torque steer, but it isn't really torque steer. I was talking to one of the engineers who helped build it, and he said, well, you've got to remember, only 20% of the power is going to the front wheels, but that is still 200 brake horsepower. It's not a bad feeling, it's not dangerous, it's just a foible. It's something you just get used to. What you never get used to, though, is the power and the smoothness of the gearbox. I mean, this car does 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds, so how come the box doesn't just fall to pieces every 3 minutes? I mean, that was an upchange. There is no flappy paddle gearbox, I know, that works even half as well as this one. Rifle bolt quick, and there was a gear change. I didn't even have a hair on my head move about. It's the most fantastic piece of engineering and a wild ride all at the same time, and normally those two things are mutually exclusive. The only thing I don't like is the noise. You expect it to sound like the end of the world. Ready? No, that just sounds like 100 ways of Victorian plumbing. That said, however, I certainly have no complaints at all about the braking system. If you stamp on the middle pedal hard in a normal car, get about 0.6 of a G, something like that, and stop like that. This, you get that much from the air brake alone. Factor in the carbon ceramic brakes and the stopping power becomes, well, just phenomenal. You go from 250 miles an hour to 0 in 10 seconds. And then you put your face back on and set off again. And never mind that in those 10 seconds you'll have covered half a kilometre. That's 5 football pitches to stop. Inside, the attention to detail just goes on and on. The stalks, for instance, are made from magnesium for lightness, and never mind that they cost £4,000 each. I just love sitting here, I really do. I just love watching these dials dancing around like they do, particularly the one that tells you how many horsepowers you're actually using. I'm currently doing, 100 kilometers an hour, and I'm using 5 horsepower. So that's 995 to spare, should I need to overtake this lorry, which I do. Oh, I'm using 600 now, 700. Still 300 left. Oh, Bugatti just got the rule book and just tore it up. There it is, torn in half and in the bin. This car then is bite the back of your hand brilliant. Not just because of what it can do, but because it can do those things for year after year, and because it meets drive-by noise and emission regulations, and because it can be driven legally by anyone with a driving license. It is even greater than the sum of its parts, and that, trust me on this, is saying something. What's more, this, the greatest supercar of them all, is built in a town called Molsheim, which means it's French. Goodbye.